As a young man, he was summoned to the wars. Spent his best years with blood on his hands.
Hey guys, it's HomoMoto. How you doing? I'm doing pretty good. Would be on the bike, but it's kind of cloudy out, and I don't know if you can see the raindrops on the windshield that's been sprinkling off and on all day. And I guess I'm kind of like that wicked witch from the Wizard of Oz. I'll melt if I get wet. Realistically, I don't like riding in the rain. It's not safe. Even on my big cruiser, there's so much that can happen. People pulling out in front of you, and it's not something I'm looking forward to doing. So I just quite simply put, not going to do it unless I have to. If I'm out riding and it starts raining, well, clearly I'm not going to crawl under a rock, because it would have to be an awful big rock. And anyway, okay, the first part of the video is going to be subscriber questions. He asked me 4 questions, really kind of 5, because one was a 2-part question. So we're going to get into that. The second thing I want to cover is boater safety, what to do and not to do on the water. And y'all pay attention to the second part of the video, because it's kind of important. And once I get to that segment, I'll tell you why it's so important. And please turn. Gracias. Anyway, what to do and what not to do on the water and why. Please pay attention to that part of the video. And the last part, one of my buddies that was a motovlogger is back on the YouTubes. I don't know what his channel content is going to be this time. I kind of get an idea, but I don't know if he's going to motovlog. But he retained most of his subscribers. When he came back, I noticed his subscriber count was already pretty high. So I want you guys to check his channel out. The link and name of his channel will be in the description. So that being said, let's get on into it. All right, subscriber questions, part 2 of 3, because there is like one more question that I'm going to drag it out. The next question, or 2, is what was my first bike and how did I choose the one I have now? Okay, my first bike was a 1980 Yamaha, see if I can remember, XT250. And that bike was kind of interesting. It was basically a dual sport, road legal, still use it as a dirt bike and such. Love that bike, but there's some history behind that bike. When I got that bike, I was either 15 or 16. I had a bad experience with the very first time I rode and didn't ride for a while. So yeah, there was that. But when I got this bike, I bought it for money I used cutting yards and stuff, and I never told my mom I had it. Never actually tagged it. My buddy who sold it to me, I guess his mom actually sold it to me, left it in her name because she knew what would happen if my mom found out about it. My mom was a little cray-cray. And I only rode it around the neighborhood with my buddy. His name was John, or Johnny, Jonathan. I guess it depended on the day of the week when he went by. His name was Jonathan, but he went by Johnny most of the time. But his mom basically sold me that bike for little or nothing because they were pretty wealthy. And he had 2 other bikes, and he wanted to ride with me, and I was the poor kid on the block, and you know, she gave it to me for a couple $100. Love that bike. Had it for about 7 to 8 months before we ended up moving, and it was either tell my mom I had it or let it go. So I never told my mom I had that bike. Even to this day, and she's passed away, but even to this day, she never knew about that bike. I kept that thing at my buddy's house and rode it a lot. Mom stayed on the road a lot. She worked a couple different nighttime jobs and stuff, and I got to kind of do what I wanted to do. I was living in Oklahoma at the time. I had a couple cousins that lived not too far away from me, but even they didn't know about it. I kept that thing a secret because, like I said, my buddy's mom left it in her name, and she was very adamant about either telling my mom and getting it swapped over, or just leaving her name and it would stay there. Now, when we got ready to move she did give me most of the money back on it. I guess she knew, you know, we didn't have much money and I couldn't carry it with me, so I don't know if she sold it to someone else, kept it or what. I lost touch with that guy and I really wish I hadn't. He was my best friend at that time and he's a great guy. I really wish I could look him up. I don't even remember his last name, so I know he's probably not watching my channel. He was a very wealthy kid. He was into all kinds of things and I miss him. He was a great kid.
Heavy precipitation has been detected near your location.
I don't know if y'all heard that, but that was Brad Travis from Channel 48 telling me there's heavy precipitation in my area. Yeah, that's why I'm not on my bike. Here's a picture of that old bike. This isn't the actual picture of the bike because I just, you know, I didn't take any pictures of it when I had it. And back then, if I had it, would have been Polaroids anyway, because I mean, I was 16 and I was, you know, it was an older bike. Like I said, it was 1980. But enough about that. How did I choose the one I have now? That's an interesting question. When I decided it was time for me to start riding again, I didn't know what I wanted. I knew what I didn't want. I didn't want a sport bike, aka crotch rocket, aka rice rocket. I knew I didn't want that. I'm a big dude, and I didn't want something that's going to be uncomfortable to ride. So I chose very wisely of what I wanted. And once I decided I wanted a cruiser versus a bobber, chopper, any of that, I started looking for that. First couple bikes I looked at was some Gold Wings, and I decided very early on that I didn't want a Gold Wing. It was too heavy. It was just too big. They were very expensive. I was going to have to get a fairly old bike to get one I could afford, and I didn't want to do that. I wanted something that was a little classier, something that looked decent, something that, I don't know, something I really wanted. I'd heard the rumors that Harley Davidsons had spent more time on the shop than on the road, and the more I talked to people that weren't Harley owners, the more that seemed to be the general consensus. So I decided I didn't want a Harley. So the three bikes I was really looking at was the four bikes, I'm sorry, the Honda Rebel. Very quickly decided I didn't want anything to do with that. The next one was a Suzuki Boulevard. I didn't want a shaft-driven bike. I've heard really negative things about them. I've heard a few positive things, but from the negatives I heard, I just didn't want one. Like I said, the Rebel I've decided against without even, you know, really looking at the bike. Let me see here. Why would they put a passing zone right here at a hill? And why is this guy doing way under the speed limit? It's kind of getting on my nerves. Okay, what was the next bike I looked at? Yamaha V-Star. Now, having owned a Yamaha when I was a kid, I liked them. I liked the reputation. I didn't really want another one, and this guy is driving me nuts, so had about all I can take of that dude. Anyway, the next bike I looked at was a Yamaha V-Star. One of the guys I had previously dated owned a Yamaha V-Star and loved it. There was a couple things I didn't like about it. One of the things I didn't like about it was it didn't have a fuel gauge. It had a fuel light. And I like to be able to gauge where I'm going without having to guess, look at the odometer and, you know, try to remember when I filled up, and it wasn't practical for me. So as much as I liked them, I decided not to go with that. So I'm sitting there thinking, don't want a V-Star, but want something similar. So I got to doing some research and I found the Kawasaki Vulcan. And really liked everything I read about that bike. The one I have is a Kawasaki Vulcan 900 Classic. So I kept looking around and I found this. Y'all, that's Safira. That's the bike I have now. I love her. Now she kind of has the color scheme of the Alabama State Troopers bikes. Yep. She's not fast. She's not fast at all. But she's got a Mustang seat on her now. She's got Cobra pipes. She'll go anywhere I want to go, dependably. She is a very comfortable bike. I love my bike. I have ridden some sport bikes. Somewhere in the mix there, I rode a Hayabusa. and it was the most comfortable of the sport bikes I had tried to get on. But keep in mind, y'all, I'm big. I don't like going real fast on a bike unless I'm running code, doing emergency services. I don't like driving fast in a car either, although you probably won't think that by that car I passed. That thing was doing like way under the speed limit. But definitely didn't want the Hayabusa. So it was a long, drawn out process, me picking out the bike I have now, and I love it. I don't regret it. I'll never look back on it. She gets anywhere from 45 to 55 miles to the gallon, depending on how crazy I am or am not being. If I'm driving a little quick, she gets about 45. If I'm driving normal, she gets about 50. And if I'm driving super conservative, she gets about, 55 miles to the gallon. Now that's rare. That I've only seen that a couple times because I don't drive her that slow. But yeah, I love her, and hopefully I'll have her forever. And if something does happen to her, I will most likely replace her with the same bike, or I may jump up to a trike. I don't know. It just depends. Hopefully nothing will happen to her. She's belt driven, 900cc. She's beautiful. I mean, I love everything about my bike. All right, next thing, motor safety. There's a couple things I want to talk about and cover as far as motor safety, and I will do more videos on this later, but for now I just want to cover the basics. Number one, life jackets. At least have them in the boat. The water starts getting rough, anything like that, you need to go ahead and put them on. But y'all at least have them. Minor Hill Police. Am I in Tennessee? I don't think I'm in Tennessee. No, I'm still in Alabama. What in the world is... Anyway, that confused me. Make sure you've got your life jackets in the boat. Preferably wear them. Now, if you're on a jet ski, you've got to have them on. That's just all there is to it. I have seen some boat accidents here recently where people didn't survive. They weren't wearing their life jackets. So y'all, wear them. Next thing, and I'm not going to harp too much about boat safety. There's just some things you need to not do. The next thing is don't be out, even with weather like this, where you see the clouds and stuff, you've got potential for lightning and such. Don't be out on a boat during bad weather, because a couple things can happen. Number one, you can get struck by lightning. Number two, the waves will start white capping, especially in river and larger lakes, and you can capsize. And that goes back to the first point, wear your life jacket. Depending on the water current, life jacket may not be enough. So if the water is bad, y'all don't get in it. Next thing is stay away from dams. Don't get too close to dams, especially like Wheeler and Wilson around us. Don't get too close to those dams. And watch out for low-head dams. That's a dam that you can't see, and most people don't survive a low-head dam incident. The undertow is ridiculous, even with a life jacket. So stay away from dams. And the last thing I want to talk about on boater safety is don't drink and drive a boat. It's illegal for one. You'll probably go to jail. You'll definitely get a citation. But just don't do it. It's not worth it. Not only are you putting yourself at risk, you're putting your crew at risk, and you're putting every passenger on that boat at risk by being intoxicated on the water. Just don't think before you get on the water, okay? Do that. The last thing I want to talk about on this video, and this video is probably longer than I intended, but I'm going to cover the last thing and I'll be done. And that's one of my buddies that was a motovlogger went away for a while. He had his own reasons for going away, but he's back, and he's changed his channel name. His channel name is now Baka's Garage. There will be a link to his channel in the description. If y'all aren't already subscribed to him, y'all check him out. I noticed when I saw his video today or yesterday that he already had the same number of subscribers he had when he went away. So I'm assuming he retained those. So y'all check him out. He's real interesting. He's funny. He's got a funny funny way of talking about things. He's a different guy. Well, that's really all I got for this one. I wish I was on my bike, but I'm not riding in the rain, and I'm trying to get all this moving stuff done, taken care of, and I don't really have time to ride. After the 1st of July, I should be back on the bike full-fledged. It's a couple weeks. I still got a lot to do to get this move taken care of and get the apartment set up, and I may give you guys a little tour of the apartment once I get it set up. It's not real big. It's a 2-bedroom. I'll be using the second bedroom for I guess a YouTube room / office. But again, that's all I got for this one, guys. I love y'all, and roll tide.
I was a storm and I passed right over you, and I tried to eclipse the sun in the hopes that you love the tumble and spray in your face, and the sky broken by light.